Hey, how's it going, friends? Thank you for tuning in to VR Revelations once again. Welcome. Make sure you give the video a like and make sure you subscribe for future coverage. So, a quick video here. We have some interesting statements that were made here by Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolay Patrushev, pretty much stating that the war that is taking place in Ukraine right now is in reality a war against NATO and even more against the United States and Britain. Now, it's funny because these articles are saying, these are dangerous statements, and I think it's pretty much obvious to even the most biased Western news sources that this is in fact a war against NATO and the United States. I mean, the only reason that Ukraine is still standing is because other nations have been providing Ukraine with weapons and continue to send weapons. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do a video here shortly on how the Americans are now training Ukrainians, on how to use the Patriot missile defense systems. And you have these other nations, such as Britain, I think, thinking about sending some better tanks. And so it's no surprise, I think, to anyone that has been examining the situation that, yes, NATO, the United States, and Britain are, in fact, in a proxy war against Russia, right? Ukraine is just the battlegrounds right now. But anyways, again, these statements have come via Nikolay Platonovich here, or rather Nikolay Patrushev, who is a Russian politician, security officer, and intelligence officer who has served as the secretary of the Security Council of Russia since 2008. So, very prominent political figure in Russia. He has a lot of influence, and as a matter of fact, he is a very close ally of Vladimir Putin, and many even say that if Putin were to pass away, he would be the next in line to take the throne there, or the presidency. You can see here that a quick Google search will bring up articles, Western articles talking about this man, such as this article from the Washington Post here. It says, the man who has Putin's ear and may want his job. Nikolay Patrushev, the powerful Security Council secretary and close Putin ally from their days together at the KGB in St. Petersburg. So this guy was also a former KGB and was actually a member when Putin was also part of the KGB. Again, these reports are coming in here through multiple sources, but I pulled up some Western media sources for you people that tend to doubt the foreign reportings on these statements and these type of news. So we have Zero Hedge here reporting on this. We are facing the entire NATO in Ukraine, Kremlin says, as UK molds battle tanks. Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolay Patrushev has issued ultra-provocative words. Again, these things aren't provocative. I think it's pretty much obvious to anybody right now, claiming that it's not fundamentally Ukraine that Russia is at war with, but that the Russian military is facing all of NATO inside of Ukraine, which again is true, and the Western powers that be actually see this as a good thing, right? They see this as, backing up democracy and freedom and all of that stuff. But let's go to an even more biased Western media source reporting on this. That would be Sky News. These guys are super biased. If you go look at any of their reportings on the situation on Ukraine, you'd think that the Ukrainians were outside the gates of Moscow by the way they report on the news. And the situation over there. But even they are reporting on this statement here. So there are two sources there for you guys. But let's go ahead and read here, because again, this isn't really surprising to anybody that realizes that Russia is facing is facing the United States and NATO and these other countries. That's the only reason that Ukraine is still standing. And really, the only possibility of victory for Ukraine would be if all these nations actually, enter into Ukraine and get in a direct confrontation with Russia. And, Ukraine has been asking for better weapons. They've been asking for the America's Abrams tanks, which are some of the best in the world. They've been asking for F-35s. They've been asking England or the UK for their best tanks and best airplanes, but they've refused to send those weapons because of the fear of escalation. Again, nuclear weapons. So we see here Vladimir Putin ally Nikolay Patrushev says the war is not between Russia and Ukraine, but NATO and 2 other countries. One of the Russian president's closest allies has made a surprise revelation. Again, this is not a surprise and it's not a revelation about the 11-month-long war in Ukraine, while also accusing the West of attempting to erase Moscow. Yes, this has pretty much been the goal for the Western powers since after World War II. Hello, we had the Cold War, and this is pretty much a continuation of the Cold War. You can just go take a look at some brief statements of the United States history during that time, and that's pretty much the objective, to erase communism from the political map of the world. So again, these people are acting surprised, like, oh, what? How dare he say that it's NATO that they're at war with and the United States? Is that really surprising when the U.S. and NATO are sending all of their weapons to Ukraine? Is that really a surprise statement? Like, come on now, at least back up your stance, But yeah, we see here a close ally of Vladimir Putin has claimed Moscow was not at war with Ukraine and it is in a military confrontation with NATO and 2 nations. Nikolay Patrushev, who is the Russian Security Council secretary, a position similar to the United States National Security Advisor, are friends from their days at the KGB. He has previously been rumored to be a replacement for the president if he was ousted, and has a major influence on government policy. Again, this is more Western wishful thinking. So you can see here, they say, if the Russian president was ousted, like, the people are going to turn on him, okay? Vladimir Putin has more support than any recent U.S. president from his own people. So this is just a dream of theirs. But no, I would rather say if Vladimir Putin were to, fall ill or pass away, then this guy, just look at his face. He looks like he's ready to take on the Western powers, right? So yeah, let's keep on going here. The 71-year-old who once promised victory in the Ukrainian war argued the 11-month-long battle is not between Russia and its neighbor. The events in Ukraine are not a clash between Moscow and Kyiv. This is a military confrontation between Russia and NATO. And above all, the United States and Britain. Ding, 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 ding. I would absolutely agree with that. He told Moscow-based newspaper Argumenty Fakti in a lengthy interview. Now, again, this is still a very interesting insight into the mindset of Vladimir Putin and all his men that surround him. Right there, we see all these reportings here that all these YouTubers and all these news media sources are reporting on about this conflict that is taking place. But it's very informative to see the actual mentality of what they're thinking, right? Because if they think that they are in a conflict with NATO, with the United States and England, then all of their decisions on the battlefield are based on that understanding. So, they're looking ahead, and they're looking at the situation on a bigger picture. And that's exactly what I try to do on this channel, guys. Also, of course, I know a lot of people may not want to hear me talk about the religious aspect to this, but guys, that's exactly my belief, and I have to speak what I believe is the truth. And I do believe that we are living in the... sorry, that's my cat there. It seems he dropped something in the kitchen. I do believe we are living in the end of days, and I don't side with any country. I think all countries are done for, but I think that God uses these countries to bring about His prophecies to fulfillment, and so I think that is what is going on here. But let's keep on going here. A quote continues here. We are not at war with Ukraine because, by definition, we cannot have hatred towards ordinary Ukrainians, right? The historical context there. Ukrainian traditions are close to the inhabitants of Russia, just as the heritage of Russian people is inseparable from the culture of Ukrainians. He further claimed to the publication it was the aim of Western countries such as the U.S. and the United Kingdom to continue to pull Russia apart and eventually erase it from the political map of the world, which again is impossible because of nuclear weapons. U.S. President Joe Biden has refuted the assertion of wanting to destroy Russia, but has previously warned it would pay a severe price for the invasion on its neighbor. The new comments could spark further fears of World War III, as other nations had flagged throughout the invasion about a conflict between Russia and NATO. So again, this is the big topic of debate. I did see a commenter in one of my videos. He gave his opinion on how he thinks that NATO will get involved, and the U.S. with boots on the ground, right? A direct conflict, which will lead up and escalate to a nuclear scenario, a World War III scenario. Now, again, my personal opinion, as I've stated in most of my videos here on the situation, is that this man is saying, Nikolay Patrushev, the U.S. is in fact using Ukraine to try and damage Russian reserves, their manpower for a future conflict. But I don't think that they are going to go all in for Ukraine. I don't think, that they will enter into Ukraine and get in a direct conflict, because that will escalate to nuclear war. Can you imagine? This is just as if Russia were to enter Mexico to fight the United States directly on its border. Russia would literally be obliged to use at least small tactical nuclear weapons if the Americans and NATO were, on the ground there on their borders. Okay, so that would be a quick escalation to mutually assured destruction. And again, if you don't believe, that nuclear power can destroy the world, then you're being very naive. This is something that was known even during the nuclear arms race. That's exactly why they made all these pacts, because they saw the potential of the world being destroyed by either one of these countries who have thousands of nuclear missiles, with certain missiles having the capability of literally destroying entire continents. It's pretty incredible. I actually made a video on the ability of these nuclear weapons, titled "The Signs of the End Times: Nuclear Weapons." I recommend you go take a look at that. But yeah, I don't think they will go all in for Ukraine and risk nuclear war. But again, like that person that commentated, it's certainly the second option. It's certainly the possibility. And based on all these decisions that the U.S. and NATO have been making, it would lead you to think that that's certainly going to be the course of action. Again, I responded to this commentator and said that would be the worst case scenario, literally, for all of us. But based on the things that are taking place and based on the biblical prophecies of the end times, I don't think nuclear war is going to take place over Ukraine. Now, there are reports that there already are Americans possibly in Ukraine training Ukrainians there, right, and NATO members. We've seen videos of reportings of these mercenaries from these different countries, but I don't think we'll have a full-scale direct conflict between the U.S., NATO, and Russia in Ukraine, because I think that would just spiral out of control very quickly. Eventually we are going to have a World War III. I think that's close. I think we are living in the end of days. But I think that will be later on. this tensions here will possibly continue, possibly, even more skirmishes and things. But the Bible also speaks of a new world order, which I think will be headed by the United States. I've spoken on these things also in my video of the Signs of the End Times, Mystery Babylon, so go check on that. So I think there are a couple of other prophecies that need to be fulfilled before we have an end of the world scenario. But again, it seems that the top leadership in Russia here is pretty aware of this, and they're making all their decisions based on this bigger picture scenario here, which is very interesting. Again, the U.S. is about to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine, or rather they're starting to train the soldiers on how to use this. It's coming a little too late for me, but this is going to help them. They are weapons, and some of the most advanced weapon systems that the Americans have, but they are defensive in nature, and you don't win a war defensively. You have to make some sort of offensive push, just like when Hitler, he almost got to Berlin, and then the Russians pushed back, and they kept on pushing till they reached, the Nazis almost reached Moscow, and then the Russians, countered attack, and the Russians were actually the first to push the Nazis all the way to Berlin, and they were the first to reach Berlin and reach Hitler. And so, in all wars, at some point you have to launch a large offensive, and in order to defeat the enemy. And Ukraine is asking for those offensive weapons, but they need the best tanks, the best jets, and these other countries are saying no. So what does that mean, right? In my opinion, they're going to let Ukraine fall when it comes down to it. But yeah, very interesting here. Very interesting look into the mindset right now of the Russian leadership. Anyways, sorry for some of the background noise, guys. I try to make these videos when it's as quiet as possible. However, I live in a neighborhood here. So anyways, leave me your comments down below, your thoughts and opinions. If you disagree with me, that is fine, guys. We're all human beings here. We're all searching for the truth. But remember, the truth is stranger than fiction. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you.